The reveal that Final Fantasy Tactics was coming back was a pretty major deal for me. The original release was my second ever Final Fantasy, coming soon after Final Fantasy VII, and it really revealed what Final Fantasy kind of was to me, because it had all the job classes and classic feel that Final Fantasy VII obviously eschewed. But it was still intriguing to me despite that because of the highly political story and the way that so many characters were shades of grey and the way the story just played out. It kept me enraptured as each new plot element came about and just stood out as a fantastic strategy RPG. It may not have been my first because I did struggle to get into it initially figuring out the systems, but when I came back to it with a little bit more knowledge of the genre, it stood out as just an absolute favorite, something special, something unique, especially because there haven't been that many Final Fantasy Tactics games. Now, that's not to say the original release of Tactics is perfect. The original translation is spotty at best and could make certain things confusing or just outright incoherent. And a lot of the subtlety could be lost because of that. However, a lot of that was eventually fixed thanks to Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions on the PSP, which did have a brand new translation that fixed that up. However, I never ended up playing that version. I simply missed my chance to check it out, and it was just beyond me at a certain point. And to a degree, it's just as difficult to track down that version as the original. So a brand new version, a definitive version for lack of a better word, is here with the Ivalice Chronicles, because it adheres to the ideas of the original release while adding a lot of updates that really do change it for the better without changing what makes Final Fantasy Tactics so special. So right off the bat, there are two versions in this game. One is based off the original. There's not as many updates to the gameplay, it plays like the PlayStation 1 version, but it does contain the localization used in the War of the Lions. This is a different translation that's used in the main game, which is simply labeled the Ivalice Chronicles. And this new translation really does smooth things out and feels so natural to how I remembered this game playing out. The voices are perfect. The voice acting is an absolute highlight of this. Every character has a voice, whether they have a name or not. Every NPC has dialogue. The shopkeepers have dialogue. It is all there to just bring you into this world and envelop yourself with the political machinations of Ivalice and find out how each character is motivated. It is an impressive localization, an excellent dub, and to some degree may be the biggest reason to play this new version. There's a certain scene early on where it shows the shades of grey of a certain character and how they can be kind of a jerk and certainly elitist, and the actor plays it to perfection and really puts forth the cruelty of the scene, while the other actor, who is just an unnamed NPC, really conveys the pride of that character and just simply makes it something special. It played out how I saw it all those years ago and made it all the more powerful. And everything I've encountered so far really matches that idea. It might still be one of Final Fantasy's best stories that they've ever told, but to be absolutely clear, I have yet to beat the game yet. I'm still relatively early in, but even with the limited time that I was able to put into this, it still stands out as, yes, this is the best version of Final Fantasy Tactics and well worth playing. That being said, there are more reasons to play than just voice acting. Everything's been updated to make it just feel more modern without losing the touch of what made Tactics so unique. Pretty much every story sequence could be seen as a diorama. It's a set piece that the characters act upon. There's nothing beyond the squares that they see, whether it's a story cutscene or a battle, and it gives this sense of a play being acted out before you. With this remake, that is maintained. The sets are not expanded in any way, they are exactly as I remember it, and all that's been added is just detail, refinement, really getting into what makes these characters be these characters and this style. Because, again, the characters aren't touched up. They still act and look the way you think. They still have the static motion of them just repeating the same frames of animation over and over again as they stand still. The magic still plays out in the same way. The attacks still play out in the same way, but it's refined. It's given a sheen to it that makes it feel like a watercolor painting with this style in the way that you just sort of see it all acted out. And the best way I can put it is it does look the way I remember Tactics being. It's obviously an upgrade, but it's how you remember it, and that is something that's worth striving for, and I'm so glad is maintained within this. I think Tactics would lose a lot of its identity if it was completely revamped so that the characters all looked realistic. No, these are very much stylized characters who often all lack noses. It is just a stylistic element to it, but that is the world of Final Fantasy Tactics, and I'm so happy to see that it's been maintained. I also want to note that we did play this on a Switch 2, and in case you're curious, it maintains a locked 60 frames per second throughout it in both docked and handheld modes. At no point during our testing did the frame rate even dip slightly, so if you decide to get the Switch 2 version, it will be rock solid the entire time. As far as we can tell, there is not going to be any dips throughout the game because it doesn't exactly get too crazy as time goes on. This should all be maintained, and there shouldn't be any fear of lesser quality. Now, as far as the gameplay, this is a strategy RPG. You have named characters and recruits that you can choose from and recruit freely in order to fill out your team. Usually your team consists of about 4 or 5 characters, and each one can choose different jobs. The jobs are where the game's strategy really comes into play because you start out with a simple set. You have a squire and a chemist. From there, as you level up those, more jobs become available. The black mage, the white mage, the knight, the archer. And as you change characters to those and level those jobs up, even more become available. And now you get access to time mages and mystics and thieves and monks, and it just goes from there, so you get more and more options as you go along, and it's all based on how much progress you make through the jobs that you currently have, and with enough grinding, if you decide to do so, you can get a lot of different job classes very early on. Final Fantasy Tactics also takes advantage of one of the other key aspects of job systems in Final Fantasies, in that you're able to mix and match them. Every character has the abilities of their main job that they are currently equipped with, and a secondary job that they can choose to equip. So if you're playing as a knight and you decide you want to have some magic on them, you can totally equip the black mage set and be able to cast spells. It may not be as effective, but the option is there if you so choose. It allows for mixing and matching that changes up the strategies quite a bit, and it's fun to figure out what you want to play. I tend to be a little basic and try to have things match as best as possible. So in my case, I started out with a character with a squire, who I eventually changed to a knight, and as I was playing through the knight, I realized I wasn't really getting a lot out of it. It wasn't fitting my style. So I changed him to a monk and found myself enjoying what they were able to do. Same ways for an archer. They have a lot of range but maybe don't hit the best. So I changed them to a thief where they can get much more movement, but if I still wanted them to use them archer skills, I just equip myself with a crossbow and have that secondary job, and all of a sudden I can use those abilities. It allows for a lot of customization and a lot of player expression that will ensure that everybody's playstyle is completely different. Now, of course, there's ideals and different things to do as far as that's concerned, but it really did remind me of how elegant the system is, especially because it's all about the job points that you gain from fighting and defeating enemies. These job points can then be spent on each individual job and unlock their various abilities. A black mage does not automatically start with all of its abilities. You have to buy fire, thunder, and blizzard. A white mage has to purchase the ability to cast cure or cura or raise or protect. It makes it so that even if you choose the same job as somebody else, the way you build it out may be completely different, especially when you consider some of the other slots that can be filled thanks to a job. So if you want to have the mobility of a squire or a thief, you can learn the mobility +1, change your job class, and not lose access to it. You can still equip it. Same ways, if you enjoy using a sword for this character or have them being able to equip a shield, you can learn that ability, attach it to the character, and now all of a sudden, if you so choose, you can have a black mage wielding a shield. Again, it's extremely pliant with the options that you have, and it's probably one of the best parts of the game. And it's all kept extremely easy to understand. I remember the original time I played this, and granted I was younger, I had a hard time maybe fully understanding what I was supposed to do with it. However, this time around, it was immediately noticeable, and even if I did struggle, there's a lot of tutorials in here that you can refer to at any time, and likewise with the story, if you're confused about character names or terms, there's lore that you can access so that you can understand exactly what's happening at any time, and every time you've watched a cutscene, you can re-watch that cutscene at any time so you can get a better sense of the story, and if you miss something or want to refer back to it, you can easily re-watch it at any time. It is extremely user-friendly, and it also addresses one of my big issues with the camera, because you only can shift the camera in quarters. So it's by set amounts that just shifts to a different view, and thanks to the objects in the battles, the rocks, the trees, and various other features, it can be really hard to see your character and properly line up where they're aiming at, or if they can even move to a certain spot. Thankfully, with the press of a shoulder button, you can get a top-down view that allows you to see that, line up what square you want to choose, and then release it to then choose that square, easily make the next selection, and continue from that point. In the same way, grinding is made a lot easier because you can speed up the game at any time. It speeds up everyone, your characters, the enemy characters, and suddenly you can get through it a lot quicker and not have to worry about it as much, because a funny thing happened to me as I played, in that I got stuck in the exact same place that I did when I was a kid. I got to a certain mission, I had grinded a bit just to get the characters up to where I wanted to, and I took on this mission and I got my butt kicked, and it was nostalgic in the oddest way. So I had to go grind, get more abilities, get better strength, and just be prepared to take on what was coming and just have that strength necessary to get there. Grinding is kind of necessary at the standard difficulty, but fortunately, if you want to have an easier time with it, there are new difficulty options. So if you are finding yourself having difficulty, you can lower it and just enjoy the game as is. There's a lot of options, but for the most part, the game feels the same. It feels authentic, and that's really all I can ask for. I cannot wait to keep playing this game, get through the end, see all the twists and turns of the plot, hear all the voice acting, hear more of the characters. It's come together as just a fantastic remake and absolutely the definitive version of Final Fantasy Tactics. If you've played it before, it is well worth playing again with this version. If you've not played it before, I absolutely recommend checking it out. And I'd honestly claim that this is probably one of Square's best remakes they've ever done. It just feels that quality and authentic to the original, and I can't recommend it enough if you haven't tried it yourself. But for now, those are my impressions from about 10-ish hours of gameplay. Still plenty more to experience, but the basics are there, and I can't really see it fumbling at any point after this. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the videos, please consider subscribing to GVG, hitting the like button, and ringing that bell. We also have our Patreon at patreon.com/GVGaming with plenty of extra perks. So until next time, bye.
So where is this Gustav? In the Samrat Siege. Sandrat?
You are not of Galleon. Small wonder you've not heard of them. Sandrats are unique to the Zeklaus Desert, north of Dorta.
Your point being? Do any villages lie in the desert?
Villages? No. At least, not anymore. But the desertmen once built a settlement by an oasis, and its ruins remain.
Then that's where we'll find Gustav and the Marquis.
Aye, like as not.
How can you be so certain? A siege is a Sandrat's burrow. Its home. Hmm?